Hello and welcome to this week's Friday Forum Live with me, Sarah Glazer. As regular viewers will know, we broadcast every Friday from Point Blank Studio here in East London to bring you exclusive tutorials, artist interviews and the very latest industry insight. On today's show, Ganesh Singaram, who's worked with artists such as Kanye West and Swedish House Mafia, will be taking us through some advanced parallel processing techniques. Hello again. Christmas must have come early this year, as joining me today is mixing maverick and Point Blank instructor Ganesh Singaram, who will be demonstrating how you can use parallel processing to really enhance your tracks. You can find out more about our courses in London, LA and online by visiting our website pointblanklondon.com. Now remember, we are broadcasting live, so write any questions you have for us in the comments and we'll answer them towards the end of the show. So Ganesh,
okay.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you?
Not too bad.
Good.
How's things?
Yeah, all right actually. Yeah, getting ready for Christmas.
Pretty good. As you can tell, I was telling the guys that my sexy voice has come on.
Oh yeah, the extra huskiness.
Yeah. Trying out for radio next, so.
Lovely.
So yeah.
Do you want to start off by telling us a bit about what parallel processing actually is?
All right. So I think, you obviously get your mix to a certain point. And then I think parallel processing just brings it up, another 50%, 80% to what you already had. So it's adding that extra meat and weight to the track to make it sound real big and powerful in a way.
Okay, like fattening up the Christmas turkey.
We like a bit of fattening, right? Yeah. Bigger the better, right, with that stuff. So this is the stuff that we're going to be doing today. It's just obviously I'll cover a bit of the basic stuff there's this sort of parallels, but I'll try to sort of branch into concepts about advanced parallel stuff. Yeah. About breaking things up into different elements and, sort of having a bit of fun with this track that we've done.
Great, okay, lovely.
Yeah. So this is a song that we've done for Point Blank sound engineering class. So it's a cover of Major Lazar and Ellie Goulding's track. Nice. Powerful, which is pretty cool because we're going to, get this shit big as well. Ooh. Sorry. But yeah, so what I'll do, maybe I'll just play the track first and then talk a bit about parallels.
Sure.
It's a pretty cool track. It's with acoustic drums and there's a backing track just to support it. Yeah. Some bass, guitars and some vocals as well. So I'll go through kick and snare and the rest of the kit and then I'll bring in some bass sort of additions as well and guitars and have some fun with the vocals as well.
Great.
So I guess we'll start off with what is sort of parallels. I guess parallels is just a sound source which is in addition to the original sound source. Okay. So, I'll start off with the kick for this example, but, we have the original kick sound that will EQ and process to get big and fat as we like it. Yeah. And then from that, I'll take a copy of that and process it separately compared to the original sound and then mix that in underneath.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so it's almost adding the weight and sort of impact and oomph that you want for the track. Really cool for drums, and you could do it for all sorts of stuff. But I guess the main sort of parallels is things like distortion, compression, and EQ. So we're going to go through a few of those today. But that's the basic concept of a parallel.
So essentially having one sound and then replicating that on another channel, but doing something different.
Yeah, you're treating that differently to the original.
Yeah.
Just in case you guys don't know, Sarah's going to take over a little bit, she's been
starting to crack her jokes early, I see.
I've got to get it in early, right? Yeah. All right, so I'll just start the kick without any parallels. Okay, so this is just the kick drum by itself. So it's an acoustic kit, so you're going to hear a lot of spill in the background, but you can sort of manage that. So you can sort of hear just the original kick. It's just got a basic compressor on.
Yeah.
Just using a fairly quick attack, slow attack, quick release, just to give it some punch to come through. But what I'm going to do is sort of take that sound and then shape it even more. The reason why we're sort of calling this a advanced parallel sort of technique session is because what I tend to do, and I'm not going to go into it too much into detail because it takes a while, but I can give you like the basic ideas and concepts of what I do.
Yeah.
And then hopefully start fusing it into your styles and getting it into something that works for your music.
Yeah, and then people can experiment at home
Exactly.
and try out different methods.
You know, and I think this is a tricky technique. It's because what I do with a kick drum is I have my original kick drum, but then I pull it apart into sections.
Right.
So I have one kick drum that's pulling just the attack of the sound. And then I have another kick drum pushing more the punch of the sound.
Right.
And then another kick drum pushing the sub of the sound. So originally I had my main kick drum. Now I've got an attack kick drum, I've got a punch kick drum, and I've got a subby kick drum.
Yeah, so you're really zooming into each element so you can, I guess, control it a lot more closely.
Exactly, because you know, I'm a bit of a control freak with mixing. It's only mixing, but you know, with mixing, you know, I like to have a lot of control so I can do things differently to the sub, to the punch, to the click. And then throughout the track, I can automate things in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's the main idea. But the reason why it's sort of a more advanced technique is because you can really mess it up if you pull it apart too far.
Okay.
So each track doesn't talk to each other.
Ah, right, yeah.
So you need to do it in a little bit of a musical sense where things overlap, and then you can put it back together to create one sound. That's the idea.
Okay,
but
right.
We'll try it. So today I'm just doing two basic techniques for the advanced styles. One is just for click and the other one's just for sub.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, so the first one, I've got my click track. So I'm just bussing it out, bus 1 in this instance, and I've just got an EQ and compressor going with it. Maybe not. Okay, just the EQ for now. So what I'm doing is just gutting out all the bottom end, because I'm going to reintroduce this sub frequencies in my second parallel.
Right.
So I don't want this to sort of reintroduce sounds into my mix. And then I'm gutting out a lot of the muddy frequencies. And then I'm boosting sort of around 4K, 3 to 4K, even 3 to 5. That's like the real clicky sort of sound of the kick drum. So the idea for this is just going to be a click track. So this frequency band that I'm talking about will make it cut through on all sort of speakers, from smartphones to laptops to any sort of system. So it's a good trick to have up your sleeve where you can mix it in to bring it in on different speakers. And then I've got a compressor on after. Same thing, it's a little bit more of a quicker attack and a little bit more of a different release to my original sound. But the idea for this is I can tonally shape the sound a bit more.
Yeah.
If I find there's too much spill coming in from the acoustic kick drum track, what I can do is almost increase this release.
Yeah.
To sort of control that spill factor. So it's a good sort of trick rather than gating in a way.
Right.
But let's have a listen and see what it's like. So real clicky. So I'll crank it up a bit more. I'll mute that and then just play this original kick drum. So you can almost feel where it focuses the energy of that kick drum. It almost focuses like that energy down on the speaker.
Yeah.
While this one, if I just, it's like really up there.
That's almost like it's smiling. You can kind of hear it go.
We do like kick drum smiling, right? So that's sort of the idea, you know. I've just separated the element of that kick drum into a category.
Yeah.
And then what I'll try to do is increase that or put that into my original and make it work.
Okay.
So I'll start with it off. And then let's increase it in. Some people might be saying, gee, what the hell are you doing? It's like too clicky. But it doesn't matter because it's just a kick drum by itself now.
Right, yeah.
This is my little tricks later in the mix where I can just pull these things up and I'll be laughing later because it'll just work on a lot of systems. So I'll try it with it off. And then with it in.
Yeah.
The reason why this is like a sort of advanced technique is you're sort of you're getting into people's perception of hearing as well. So when someone hears a track, even though they don't hear the thud and sub of a kick drum, people can automatically fill in the gaps and go, okay, that's a kick, that's a snare, and they follow the beat. So all I need to give them in order to register that there's a kick drum there is this. Maybe not. This, yeah. So all you need is that top end information for you to go, okay, there's a kick and then there's a snare there. Because you can't even hear the snare too much now, but you know there's a snare there.
Yeah.
So all you need to do to draw people's attention is go, okay, that's a kick drum. That's why it cuts through a lot of speakers and people just sort of fill in the gaps with what they're used to. So you're sort of playing on people's perception of sound in a way.
Yeah.
It's a bit deep, I know, but you sort of get what I mean, right?
Yes.
So, got my kick, normal sound, and then my click. So there's sort of one aspect that we pull the top end away from the kick drum. Now we're going to sort of do the sub stuff for it.
Okay.
So I've created another bus for this one, and I'll just go through this quickly as well. What I'll do is I'll upload a session just with the parallels so everyone can have some fun with that as well.
Thanks.
Good for the weekends.
Yeah.
Right? Notice on this one, this is just sub. So I'm focusing more on the lower sort of harmonics of the sound. So I'm cutting away all the top end. So I don't really need anything, above. I might have gone a bit too crazy here, but maybe like that.
Yeah.
Anything above 4K because my click is now fulfilling that range.
Yeah.
My click parallel. Also, I really don't like this frequency range in sounds, so I just kill that straight away.
Yeah.
Because the idea is I want to provide a sound that I want to sort of sculpture in a way in my sub-harmonic generations from either things like a bass amp simulator or you could do, why is this so hard to do? R-bass, low air and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Different plugins. So what I want to do is sort of scope a sound to a point and then let the sub-harmonic sort of trigger from that.
Right, okay.
So the thing is, I'm not gutting the sound from here because sometimes when you do that and put it back together, it can sound a little bit unnatural. So what I'm trying to do is give you like a sort of quick and easy fix to do this advanced technique but not sort of mess it up in a way.
Yeah.
Because it is tricky. I've messed it up so many times, but it's
But
just
not
taken.
today. Today's going to be
It's too early,
perfect.
but yeah. So hopefully not today. But that's the idea. I don't want to gut too much of it off. So when I put it back together, there's like big holes
Yeah.
in that complete sound. So that's the concept of it. I'm just using standard Logic plugins for this one. I find this one pretty cool. It's like a bass amp simulator. And I've just picked a setting for heavy bottom. Because we do like it fat, right? So
Yeah.
we'll do that. Otherwise, how low is pretty good as well. You can use this on bass and kicks. It's a really cool thing. And then I'll just start with that off actually first. Okay, so I'll just play the normal kick. It's obviously got that click parallel going as well.
Yeah.
And then now we'll put the sub in. So it should be quite weighty right now.
Yeah.
The good thing about having your sub on a separate channel, and I can even EQ the sub out of this channel as well if I want, which I should have done, but I was a bit lazy on that one. But you can roll off the sub on that channel, so only the sub frequencies are coming in from this sub parallel. And then what you can do is just sort of mess around with the tones that you want. But the main thing to do is check if this plugin is putting this sound out of phase to the original.
Right, okay, yeah.
So the idea is, because I'm adding a parallel to it, it's an addition to that sound. But if that sound is working out of phase with the original, it's obviously pushing against what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So the main things you notice for things being out of phase is the level will drop, the bottom end will go, and the focus will go.
Yeah.
So the thing is, if I'm trying to add this big subby sort of thing, and then as soon as I add it, it's taking away sub, I'm sort of fighting against myself.
Definitely.
So what you should always do is check your phase relationship. Okay, so excuse me. So I'll just turn this on, and then I'll invert the phase. And then I'll phase flip it. Sorry. So what I notice when I phase flip it is the level gets louder and there should be a little bit more bottom end in it.
Yeah, yeah, you could hear that.
So that's telling me by the time it processes that sound, it'll just make it sort of out of phase with the original signal. So I sort of want to correct that. Cough again.
It's okay.
That's why my sexy voice is on today. Okay, so another beautiful thing about having the sub separated is now I can sort of compress the sounds a little bit differently, so I can make them work differently with the kick drum, like original sound, and the bass.
Okay.
So I can almost control it a little bit harder than the original sound. So I can shape it a lot more. It's terrible. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll add this compressor in. What I can do is just sort of control the tail of it a lot more. It's good segment, eh? Me coughing all over the place. Yeah, so what I can do is just control this a lot more.
Yeah.
So I can almost shape the size of the sub down a bit.
Right.
So I can play this back in the track and go, how does this work with the song? So what I'll do is I'll shape the sound of the sub and then I'll put it back in the track and then I'll mess with my release and attack. If I make the release quick, my sub feels a lot longer and more obvious. So what I can do is work it with the bass and go, if I lengthen the release of that compressor, it's almost going to hold it a lot more, so the bass can come through a little bit.
Right, yeah.
So it's sort of compressing a lot harder towards the tail of it. Bit of an extreme. So what you need to be listening out for now is the kick and bass sort of space. Like that, the sub comes out a lot more. It's a lot more obvious. And then let me slow it down completely. Bass and sort of kick work a little bit more. So I can shape this sub a lot differently from the original kick drum.
Yeah.
The reason why I put a compressor on it is I've sort of worked with a lot of different mastering engineers where no matter what I've done with the sub, I get it back and it's like, it's too out of control.
Right.
So I thought, oh, maybe my mixes are bad, or like, you know, maybe I should be doing this. But I realized what I'm giving him is not a controlled sub. So the reason why I do this is I can now control the sub completely differently from everything else.
Yeah.
And I can hit the compression ratio harder on the sub, so it's a lot more controlled. So no matter what they do, they can't really sort of F it up in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I censor myself. That's good.
So it's obviously called parallel processing. That kind of implies two, but in theory, I guess it's kind of limitless how many times you can do that. Or
You can pretty much go pretty crazy with this stuff. Like, sometimes I have to just control myself because you do get carried away.
Yeah.
But I'm adding stuff because of a reason, not just for the sake of adding it as well. So you got to be careful of that. And, you know, here I'm using an EQ, I'm using a harmonic sort of generator, using a phase flip, and then a compressor. So a parallel using various techniques.
Yeah.
It's not just compression. There's a lot more going on. So that's the idea for that. And, you know, if I compare this kick drum, so that's the original. And then I'll just increase it. So without, it's like, where did he go?
Yes.
Where did he go?
Very subtle.
And then,
Yeah. A lot
that's,
beefier.
it's pumping it a lot more now.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's a little bit about a kick drum, sort of splitting it apart and then putting it back together. And you have to be tasteful with how you blend it back in.
Yeah.
You know, if I have too much of the click, then it's going to sound a little bit unnatural and so forth. But what I can do now is in the chorus, for example, I'll start with my click drum, click down a bit,
Yeah.
and then I'll increase it.
Okay, yeah, just to give that little bit more push.
Yeah. So what I can do just in choruses in certain sections is I can just automate the click up
Yeah.
and then automate it back down. So I have my standard kick drum sound, but then in moments where the intensity rises, like instruments and stuff like that,
Yeah.
I can now compete with certain things. So all I have to do is just pull this up.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's helping you add the extra dynamic variation.
Yeah,
to the
exactly.
track.
So as I said before, people just need to hear that click to go, oh yeah, there's a kick drum still there. So you can sort of trick the listener in a way. It's cheeky, but it's good.
So should we have a look at bass?
Oh yeah, okay. Sorry.
Oh yeah, this, yeah.
I just want to show people this as well. This is pretty cool. So this is a snare parallel. So this is a snare by itself. Once again, it's acoustic kit, so you're going to get a bit of spill.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to do is add an EQ on. So I'm scooping out some bottom end, getting rid of those frequencies I don't want to reintroduce in the track. And because there's hi-hat spill coming in, I'm sort of cleaning a little bit of that out.
Yeah.
So when I bring this parallel in, it's not going to reintroduce these frequencies.
Right.
And then I've added this bit crusher on. Just 12-bit, I'm driving it a bit. But as I said, you'll have a template for this as well. But check this out. So I'll start with it off. Without it. So now with my kick. Now without the snare parallel. And without any of the parallels. So kick and snare. That's quite big.
Yeah.
But yeah, because we're sort of against time, I guess.
We are a little bit, yes.
So you're going to rein me in a bit of stuff, Sarah.
Sorry.
Okay. All right, so we'll do the bass. Alright, so let's add some cool stuff to it. So same thing as a kick drum, what I'm going to do is separate the bass into elements.
Okay, yeah.
Where I've got a high-end sort of factor and a sub-factor. I like a bit of distortion on bass because I like things being a little bit dirty with that sort of stuff. So I'm just using a standard Logic bass simulator, and I've just gone for the growler section. It can be a little bit too edgy, but you could try this parameter, which is the edgy one, or DI.
The edgy one's less edgy than the growler.
That didn't make sense. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so it's not as edgy as the growler.
Okay.
But it's okay. I should just move on from that one. It's less subtle,
Okay.
All right, so this is the growler one. As I said, it's like really dirty, but without it. And then with. So I'll chuck in the drums and watch how it cuts through. Almost gives it like an old school feel as well.
Yeah. It's quite sleazy.
It is a bit sleazy, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, I could do... Sorry, I could do that.
Yeah.
And you go, whoa, what the hell are you doing? But... it's a bit more tasteful. So I'll increase this distortion. So listen to the high-end detail of the bass.
Yeah.
Almost sits behind everything, and then I'll just pop it out. So that's sort of the concept, and then I can do the same with the bass and sub-content of it. I'm really sorry guys, I'm coughing like all over the place. It's terrible. So I've just got an EQ, once again, cutting out the top end and that sort of muddy frequency, and then I've got how low on this one. I've just phase flipped it because it was out of phase, and I've got a compressor on it. So don't worry if I'm going through this too quickly because you can get the session. And let's bring this in. So without it. And then with. So now I've got different tracks to sort of automate, and then I can automate this differently in the chorus, or I can drop the sub a little bit for the verse and then maybe increase it in the chorus so it feels like a lot more weighty.
And I guess you could maybe sort of take it, put one in the left channel, one in the right channel, and then have the original one in the middle, sort of to make a really wide sound as well, if you wanted to.
Yeah, I can do that with like synth basses as well, like where you can sort of separate things up where you have your bass frequencies a little bit more in the center.
Yeah.
And then you can have your top end a little bit more spread out as well, which is pretty cool. But, you know, without the parallels, this is sort of what we're going with. And then with. So without that dirty bass, you can sort of feel like it gives it a sort of a feel, but I like the old school element that is that. And you can really hear the notes being a lot more defined.
Yeah. Takes it from sounding like a Monday night to a Friday night.
Yeah, that's right. A lot more groovier, right? How are we doing for time for this?
I think we
alright?
should probably have a look at vocals.
Ah,
now,
cool,
If
alright.
that's all right. Yeah.
Okay, I've got a few different things going on for vocals. So I'll just show you like a standard vocal parallel.
What you do to me, like lightning when
So I'm just using like a studio
swimming in the
fat,
sea. From the
attack and
very
release.
first
It's
time
just a
we
little bit
loved,
slow
from the
for the
very
attack, and the
first
release is
time
quick
we
just to make it
touched,
punch through.
walking on wires
So let's add this back
and
in.
power lines. You put your body on top of mine every time that you lift me up
So without it,
to the heaven and stars above. Oh my, what you do to me.
With?
Like lightning when I'm swimming in the sea.
and I'll just put it back
From
in the track
very
so you can
first
hear what's that
time we loved, from the very first time we touched,
So without it,
walking on wires and power lines. Put your body on top of mine.
so it's sort of poking it out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But then I've got something for the distortion factor of it, which I covered last time in one of our...
One of our magical sessions.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
one of those ones, right? But so a cool thing about this is just going to give you that edge factor where you can introduce it a little bit more in the choruses and whatnot.
Oh my, what
So it's going
you
to add a
do
lot of
me.
power to it.
Like lightning when I'm swimming in the sea. From the very first time we loved, from the very first time we touched,
Without it,
walking on wires and power lines.
with,
You put your body on top of mine every time that you lift me up to the heaven that stars above. Oh, my, what you do to me.
with.
Like lightning when I'm swimming in the sea. From the very first time we loved.
So suddenly I've got like a really badass vocal.
Yeah.
Walking on wires.
And because I'm adding different parallels, adding different tones, they're going to sit differently from the kick drum, the snare, the bass, you know? Because what the snare is pushing is not necessarily exactly what the vocal's pushing.
Yeah.
So you can harmonically enrich things a little bit differently. It's a bit, that's a cool one, I like that. But yeah, it's sort of getting into it a lot more and separating things out.
Yeah.
Like lightning when
I've also got
in the sea. From the very
another parallel for just vocals, but it's just top end. So I'm just gutting everything under 1K, and then I'm boosting sort of something happened there. Let me just reset. So gutting everything under a K, and then boosting the sort of presence region, which is about 2.5 to maybe 5-6K.
Yeah.
So it's what sort of gets in our ears, I guess, the most. So that's what's sort of a little bit more noticeable. So what you can do is sort of push that aggressive factor, or you can even go higher up. So it's bringing out more of the air of the sound for the vocal. So what you can do is push that in with a compressed sort of sound, and you can slow down, or you can quicken the attack, sorry, so it doesn't bring out the S's too much.
Okay, so it's cutting down on the sibilant.
Yeah, so it's not being as punchy, but it's more of a tonal shaper, rather than, oh, you need to be really obvious.
Yeah.
And then I can just bring this in as well. So you need to really pay attention to the top end for this. I'll go extreme, it's probably going to sound bad.
Oh, yeah.
I did warn you. Yeah.
Some people really like that style though, but I don't. I don't.
Alright, then I'll pull it down. So without it, with, so it just fills in a cool gap with it.
Yeah.
Alright, and then we like to do the before and afters as well, so let's just... So this is without any of the parallels going on. And then with?
Walking on wires and power lines. You put your body on top of mine.
Without?
Every time that you lift me up to the heaven that stars above. Oh, my, what you do.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like lightning when I
Sounds a little bit more like a record now, you know, you're sort of bringing out things that you want and you're sort of controlling each factor as well.
Yeah.
So it's cool techniques, and you know, this stuff is endless. You know, you can break everything down and then put it back together, but you just need to know how to put it back together.
Yeah.
Because you can really mess it up as well. But
Okay.
it's just trial and error. You know, hopefully stuff that we've gone through today and the template will be really cool for people to check out.
Well, any tips when you say it's really easy to mess up? Is there anything that you can sort of say to someone to
Okay, so-
help them not do that?
Because I do this in my mixing classes at Point Blank as well.
Yeah.
Is with the kick drums, is like I show them how to pull a kick drum like completely apart.
Yeah.
And then put it back together. And I go around after and listen to it. And
Yeah.
it does sound a little bit different, but then I talk to them and go, okay, maybe try blending the punch a little bit more, the sub a little bit more.
Yeah.
Or maybe some of the frequencies they're taking out, you know, like this, maybe they're gutting too much of a particular frequency out, you know, maybe they're cutting all that out and then bringing that in. So when it comes in and it falls back together, it just sounds unnatural.
Yeah.
So you got to be sort of careful of that. That's how you can mess it up. It's just by, well, I guess it's like getting a puzzle, right, and putting it back together, but you're not even getting the correct spots in. It's like,
Right. Just hammering pieces
just
into the wrong place.
get in there. It's like, it's going to get in there, but it's not going to look or feel right. So
Right.
it's that sort of idea and concept.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's the ideas of it.
And were you going to talk about expanders as well
okay.
today?
So I've got an expander, well, it's a multipressor. So it's acting like a compressor, but it's sort of pushing things the opposite way. So expanders work on the opposite principles of compressors, where they will grab a sound and pull it back for a
Yeah.
compressor. Expanders are pushing it the other way. So rather than controlling it, it's making it a little bit more dynamic.
Right.
So sometimes when I get stuff from different producers, like synths and string parts that have just been played in, and there's no dynamics in it, and especially hi-hats as well,
Yeah.
what I do is add expanders to it to make it bounce and move a lot more, like
Okay.
someone's actually giving it a bit more feel.
Right.
Obviously, I can't ask the producer, "Oh, can you give me that back with a bit more different thing?"
Yeah.
I need to be able to have tools at my disposal that I can use.
Yeah.
So I use expanders. I'm just using the multipressor from Logic right now, but what I use all the time is the R compressor from Waves. So rather than pulling the ratio down in the center section, what you do is push it up. So it's doing the opposite, so working like an expander.
Right.
And you can add a lot of life into it, especially for vocals that have been like over compressed
Yeah.
when they're like sucking things out. Remember last time when we were talking
Yeah.
about like singers trying to go louder, but the compressor's going, no, you can't do that.
Exactly, yeah.
So what expanders can do is sort of recreate that dynamic factor. So that's sort of the concept of it. It's working opposite to what a compressor's doing.
I'm swimming in the sea.
So what I'm doing on this instance, right, is expanding like a little bit more the top end and mid-range frequency for the guitar. So you'll watch it pump out a lot more. And this is going to add a lot more dynamics to the track.
Yeah.
So it almost feels a little bit smooth. So I can almost recreate the guitarist playing it a little bit harder,
Yeah.
a little bit more sort of, I guess, theatrical in a way. Do you get what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so this is like, okay, he's a little bit more chilled out, but I can recreate. Do you know what I mean? Was that weird or was that?
It's the
It's
emphasis.
okay.
It's the
It's the
accent.
emphasis, yeah,
It's
yeah.
the accent. So yeah, just go there.
So if I play this with the drums, you'll sort of feel the impact that this has. So without it. I can add a lot more emotion to it. Without. Really cool on synths, choir pads, string instruments. You could use it for so many different things. It's
Yeah.
like really cool. It just adds a lot more life into some production that, you know, if people are playing it on a keyboard, maybe there's not such a dynamic touch like a real piano player sort of coming in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is fair enough, you know, it's different styles of working, but I can sort of recreate certain movements and elements by using stuff like this. That's a little bit about expanders and stuff like that.
Great, thank you. Gonna see if we've got any questions. Doesn't actually look like we do this
Oh, wow.
time. So maybe everyone's out Christmas shopping. I don't know.
Partying, it is
or
Friday as well, right?
Maybe the Wi-Fi on this is a little bit dubious. But yeah, that's all we have time for this week. So thank you very much, Ganesh.
Yeah, cool.
Hopefully that's given you plenty of inspiration for your weekend of music making. Remember, you can find out more about our courses in London, LA and online by visiting our website pointblanklondon.com. And we'll be back next week with a very special festive edition of Friday Forum Live. Until then, thanks for watching and goodbye.